Jess, you're on. I want to read one of the shortest tender buttons to you. I realize this is a surprise cold call and you probably won't have time to pull up the text, but this is water raining. It's so short. I'm going to read it to you and just ask you to respond. And then I'll ask Max and Anna also to respond. Okay. So just to say anything about water raining, here it is. I'll read it twice. Water raining. Water astonishing and difficult altogether makes a meadow and a stroke. Second time reading it. Water astonishing and difficult altogether makes a meadow and a stroke. Jess, would you say anything about that? It's a difficult one.
Sure. Yeah. I guess something that I've been thinking about more broadly with Stein this week is abstraction. And I guess this is in my head as well, because there was a question in the forums about exactitude. And so I've been thinking about these two concerns of Stein's as being in tension. And I'm not sure if they play out in water raining in particular, but I think there is an element of abstraction there in that water raining is something that's easily recognizable as a process in the world. Water does rain down from the sky.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something very different happening in this poem than, say, what was happening in the Imagist poems that were of a similar length that we encountered last week. A different kind of precision or exactitude is being pursued here.
Hey, Jess, I want to ask you to elaborate on that a little bit. I realize you're just riffing here, but a different kind of exactitude. So this is be an instructive moment for people who are new to this material. So, so let's create the distinction, and I'll invite others to do it. A different kind. So you have Imagist exactitude is one thing, and Steinian exactitude is another. Can you elaborate a little more?
Sure. I think the Steinian exactitude, if I had to define it, and this might seem counterintuitive, but I think it is, and I think it is a form of abstraction in that it's a way to insist that something is there and has a concrete presence and existence, but it's a way of insisting that something is there that complicates or refuses the terms on which that thing can be made visible.
Yes.
And I don't think there's that same interest in complication or refusal with the imagism.
Sometimes I hesitate to follow up and ask further when someone says something, especially when they're riffing, but I'm so glad I did. That was so brilliant. I mean, exactitude can be theoretical. Exactitude doesn't have to be concrete. It doesn't have to be pseudo-concrete. I love HD, and HD is a very theoretically sophisticated poet, but that's secondary. For Stein, that the idea that theorizing is exactitude is primary. It's an amazing thing. And Max, I'm turning to you and then to Anna on this question. Chris, do we have someone on the phone? I just wanted to, okay. So Max, then Anna on water raining, and then we'll go to the phone.
That was a really brilliant take on exactitude, Jess. Thanks for that. There's two things that strike me about this poem: the blurring of the natural and human worlds, to the extent that the sort of the human world is separate, distinct from the natural world, and also the condensation that happens over the course of this one sentence. For me, this poem evokes an oil painting, or no, I guess not an oil painting, perhaps a watercolor, right, would be more appropriate, of a landscape, of a meadow. So we're sort of in this in-between place between the act of representation and what is being represented itself. And also, I just love the way that the water becomes the single stroke, this very discrete act at the very end. And typically what we would associate a stroke with an act of creation, right? As a sort of a stroke of a paintbrush or a pen or something like that. So there's a lot going on here that I think is it's kind of a great object lesson in Steinianism for lots of people, hopefully.
Thank you, Max. That was great. Anna?
Just real quick, kind of returning to, again, a little bit of Amber Rose's really brilliant comment about the continuous present in Stein. Water raining makes me think about simultaneity and the fact that Stein doesn't say rain to describe water raining, it's water raining. So the water gets to exist simultaneously as water, as rain, as a meadow, and as a stroke. So it allows us to kind of think about water across multiple states and across multiple sort of fields of vision, water sort of being and acting as multiple things. You know, it's the rain falling from the sky, and then it's the wetness on the ground, and then it's, you know, the way that it creates, you know, sort of stroking lines when it's raining really hard. So just thinking about the ways that the poem allows the water itself to kind of be in that state of flux in multiple places at once is really neat.
9 years plus into this, excuse me, 9 years plus into this. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about form, the question of water as form, as an instance of form in Stein better than you just did. It's really quite amazing. Water, we think of water as liquid, as a form, but actually it's all forms. It's a great thing. I mean, Dickinson's Brain Within Its Groove tells us how powerful water can be and how we can't control it. And that's a poem that lets the form run away. And that's what water raining is doing here.